Hello and welcome to the romance track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z and Morgan Brice. And today we're going to be talking about more Valentine's romance, all that good stuff with all these wonderful romance authors. So first, I want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, starting with Deb.
Me? My name is Deb Marlowe. I write Regency historical romance. I have a series out right now called A Series of Unconventional Courtships. Last book just came out last month. I love Valentine's Day. Love the attention it gives to romance. Thrilled to be here to talk about it. Thank you.
Awesome. Angel?
Hi, I'm Angel Martinez. I write romance with queer characters. It's mostly science fiction and fantasy. I kind of lean over into that realm instead of doing contemporary because it's more fun. And yeah, Valentine's Day is a great topic. There's a lot to talk about with romance.
How about you, Pat?
Hi, I'm Patricia Rice. I've been writing romance for probably 3-4 decades now. So I've kind of covered the entire genre from urban fantasy, contemporary, historical, mystery, romantic mystery. I've got it all, and it's only fitting Valentine's Day because that's my wedding anniversary.
Oh, very nice. How about you, Rhys?
Hi, I'm Rhys Everly-Lawless. I have been writing for a while now. Recently rebranded myself. So I now write contemporary romance under Rhys Everly and urban fantasy and paranormal romance under Rhys Lawless. And I love happy ever afters. So anything I write has to have a happy ever after, or a happy for now at least.
Sounds good. Elle?
Hi, I'm Elle Keaton and I write contemporary romance. I also write, I'm probably more known for romantic suspense. I've been writing for about 4 years, publishing for about 4 years. Oh, we're always writing forever, right? Since we had crayons or something. I have to admit that I'm not always a Valentine's Day fan, but I love happily ever afters, and I love writing happiness for characters that people that are, differently don't always get happy. So that's what I really enjoy writing. So
cool. And RJ?
Hi, I'm RJ Scott. I write male romance. I'm just coming up to my 11th year anniversary of being published. Every single one of my books is a happy ever after. I am a complete sap, but actual Valentine's Day, hubby and I that have been together 30 years, we don't actually celebrate it as such, but romance is just all year round. So I try to have that in my books.
Sounds good. And I'm Gail Z and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, and more. As Morgan Brice, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. So I am all about the happily ever after as well. So, let's air these feelings on Valentine's Day here, because I've heard a variety of impressions. And, do you love it, hate it, indifferent? One day, every day, let's get the Valentine's Day out of the way so that we can talk about the happily ever after. So who wants to jump in first on the Valentine's Day piece?
Shall I do the traditional here? Because since we did get married on Valentine's Day, obviously I was a romantic from the very beginning. But I am not a person who celebrates holidays to any great extent. I find them greeting card happy, just so the only reason I would celebrate Valentine's Day is because of the anniversary, because he's the love of my life. I've been married to the same person for, I'm not going to tell you how long. So for us, it's something, but I can see where, because I get this from my readers, if I send out a newsletter saying Happy Valentine's Day, they'll say, well, it's not happy for me. I lost my spouse, or I've never married, or,
Right.
Nobody comes to me and gives me hugs or cards. And it's a very heartbreaking day for a lot of people. So no, it is a greeting card holiday.
It's a bit like Mother's Day, isn't it? When you go out and you say Happy Mother's Day, and of course you get, when I post Happy Mother's Day for the English mothers, you get the American saying, well, it's not our Mother's Day until X day, so there's that, and then you'll get people saying, well, I lost my mum when I was X day, and it's actually a very sad day. So it's a bit like Christmas. It's just like any big day. It can be really sad and it can be really happy. And so it's not about focusing maybe on the one day. It's about just the build up to that day, the romance parts, the flowers, it's a bit like Christmas. I much prefer the build up to Christmas than the actual day itself. The actual day itself is just manic. The actual build up is exciting. So
I completely agree, because I told I have 2 grown children, and I don't know what time they become 2 grown children, adult children, I guess. But I'm like, don't give me Mother's Day cards. I hate Mother's Day cards. You know, there's plenty of times in the year they can tell me they love me. And I guess that's where I come from when I'm writing too. And that's what everyone else here is talking about, is it's love all year.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, my kids are millennials and Gen Z, so I don't think they even know greeting cards exist. It's right there, phone books and landlines for them. So, you know, I'll get text messages with emojis for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, and that's cool. So things change. Anybody else want to weigh in on Valentine's Day?
I totally agree with the fact that, you know, it's a love every day kind of a thing, but I do like the chance to, you know, just take a day to celebrate it. You know, I mean, if you have it, celebrate it, feed it, you know what I mean? And I also love the historical aspect of it, because we do feel like it's like a greeting card holiday, but this has been going on since Roman times. You know, people have been celebrating love at this time of the year.
It's been going on since pagan times, and it was a fertility ritual. So
right, and you know, and poor Saint Valentine, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
the Catholics
martyred for marrying people against the will of the emperor. But I mean, in the medieval times, you know, they thought about it. In the Regency times, it was one of the most popular holidays in London. I think it was like 1814. There were 200,000 Valentines in the post. You know, it just did not that one day. It was on top of the regular post load. So it's been, you know, and then of course the Victorians, you know, started the whole Valentine card thing. So it's been going a long time. I like that. You know, I like that feeling of tradition. I like that it gives, even though they continuously use bodice ripper like every year, I hope that we will move past that eventually. But I do like that it gives romance a bit of attention. You know, look at us. You know what I mean? I mean, we're fabulous. You should be looking at us all the time.
Right?
So.
Oh yeah, and if you look at Victorian greeting cards, they are super weird.
Yes.
But yeah, it's fun stuff. Valentine's Day for me, it's not really a special day like everybody's been saying. Romance should be all year round. It's kind of a fun idea, but the issue that I have with it in modern times is that there's so much pressure involved with it. Oh, you have to do this on Valentine's Day, or you have to do that, or you're not really showing this person how much you love them. And that's yeah, I don't like the commercial, you must do this and you must do that kind of aspect of it. So, but otherwise,
it's always the thought that counts. You know?
Right. Sort of like there's a, you know, Friendsgiving is, you know, okay, so just get together with the people that you love, however you love them, and eat chocolate or
right.
Well, that's a good thing about it.
I do like that part of Valentine's Day the most.
The chocolate part.
I do love the Galentine's Day trend that's been going on the last few years. You know, Galentine's Day, celebrate your female friends. Like Target even has cards for that, you know.
Okay.
So that I do love that too. I love the idea of embracing all different kinds of love and friendship at this time. So
yeah, I think when I was a kid, I used to look at those really fancy hearts with the chocolate in them in the drugstore, you know, that had the rich satin and the lace and all that.
Uh,
Well, that's when you're really grown up, is when you get one of those. And then I finally got one. I found out that the outside of the heart is really good, but the inside of the chocolate's usually not so great. And there's a life lesson in there somewhere, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm
But
sure. Yeah.
yeah, I love what everybody's saying about the romance all year round. So let's talk about what is romantic. What, for you or your characters, what is a romantic gesture if it's not a greeting card or it's not roses on a certain day? What does romance look like to you or your characters?
That's huge. That's really huge.
We've got time.
There's a lot to question.
To me, romantic is, it starts with thinking of the other person.
Mhm.
If you personally want to go golfing that day, but your partner is feeling bad because of something or the other, you know, and taking the time out to think, is it more important to go golfing, or is it more important to do something special for my partner here to make her feel better? Just the little things, you know, it's, you know, okay, you're feeling bad here. I'm going to go dig this hole for your roses, and maybe, you know, you can plant roses and feel better. So you can start with the little things like that. But then, you know, in a romance, of course, we're going to get a lot bigger than that. But typically, just in our lives, you know, I know you like Godiva chocolates. I'm going to run up to the store and get you some of those Godivas because, you know, you deserve that. That kind of thing. It's just thinking of others.
I think every romantic storyline I've ever written has that moment where there's a moment of sacrifice. And it could be something really tiny, like, yeah, okay, I won't go and watch that hockey game, or I won't sit on that sofa, or I'll cook you dinner, or it could be something like, yeah, I'll die for you. I will go and put myself in danger, and I will die for you, because that is how I show that I love you. So it's like a huge spectrum of like little sacrifices that you make out of love, or that's what I think anyway. Feel free to disagree.
I think I'm saying the same things that RJ and Pat have said, but it's that space that the characters take up in each other's kind of internal monologue that we write about, right? You know, that space the characters are thinking and wanting. I mean, maybe it takes them a little while to get there or to realize it, or they're idiots and you know, they have to like literally trip over love to figure it out. But there is space, you know, being taken up by each other in their heads, and that to me is the romance that they work toward and work into.
And for me, a lot of the romance in my books, it's really about being seen and being heard and being understood. And, you know, like, so translating that into today, Valentine's Day terms, instead of buying somebody a flowery, lacy, silky box of chocolate, just, you know, do something that means something to them. You know what I mean? Just something that's individual, you know, something, you know, do you not like chocolate? Do you like steak? Oh, you know, my husband loves apple pie or apple crisp. He gets that for every anniversary and, you know, birthday instead of cake or whatever, you know, just whatever works for you. Or a Doctor Who fan, here, you know, whatever is important and meaningful to the individual, I think is awesome.
I think, personally, I think it changes. What is romantic when the relationship starts, or when the feelings start, to when you're like married 10, 20 years down the line. I think initially what's romantic is being so completely overwhelmed and overtaken by someone else's presence inside you, in your head, in your heart. I remember I was in love with one of my friends from university, and it literally hurt my heart that I couldn't have him. And that for me was like, that's what love is. And now that I'm married, like 5 years, happily married, and I'm like, no, actually, that's not what love is for me now. For me, love now is, you know, having dinner made, or convincing my husband to watch the MCU films, like things like that are very, very silly. But I think it changes so much because after a certain point, their presence inside your head and inside your heart and your feelings for them become such a part of reality, such a part of everyday life, that you forget that life without them was different. And that's, I think, there have been times in my marriage when I'm like, have we lost our romance? Have we lost our sparkle? But then you find other ways to make that up, because you forget that actually, no, you haven't, but you just gotten used to being consumed by each other in the daily life, and thinking about each other on a daily basis. What do they like? What am I going to buy for them when I buy junk food for me? What do they like? What sacrifices are we going to make tonight? Are we going to eat his favorite meal or my favorite meal? Things like that. I think that's romance, it develops, and it's exciting. But you know, when we write romances, especially if it's paranormal or urban fantasy, we want to take it all the way to the extremes. Like, was it you, Deb, that said about dying for you? Or it's just the ultimate romantic sacrifice, isn't it? And who wouldn't want to die for the loved one? But obviously, that's not what we do in the everyday life, because we don't have to face the demons and whatnot.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Shorter,
No,
everybody
but
does. So,
Oh,
opposite of the happily ever after.
But you know,
But I
Rhys
do love
Rhys
that.
makes a good point that romance and the feelings that go along with romance change over time. And it's interesting to see when you have a romance series, for instance, where you have the same characters. And this happens a lot in urban fantasy and those other romance subgenres where there are other plots involved and not just the romance. So you have the same set of characters, the same pair, and you see them book to book growing within the romance, and that is so nice to see. So it's not all the grand gestures and the hearts and flowers and the, oh, I can't live without you, I'm going to die. It's more about learning to live with each other and learning those compromises and those boundaries, and being able to do for each other as well. So it's not always about the grand sacrifices. It's very often about learning to grow with each other as well. That's just so wonderful.
Yeah, I love
each other. Yeah.
Right.
Of established relationships where, yes, you see that grand gesture and the swoony stuff in the first book when they find each other, but then the real work starts. Right. And in addition to fighting the demons and the monsters and the ghosts and whatever else, because I write paranormal, you've got the hard work of, well, right, now that we're together, now what? His feet are cold and he drinks the milk out of the carton and he leaves dishes in the sink, and how can love survive these things?
And he won't eat his broccoli, and yeah.
I made broccoli, damn it, and he didn't eat it. You know, I'm rejected. And I love watching people work through that too. And sometimes at the same time, they're fighting the monsters, hack slash, and you didn't eat your broccoli, hack slash, well, hack slash, you know, fighting about it in the middle of a fight. There's so much territory there. So it's kind of fun to go between the one-off, oh, let's get this couple together and then we'll never see them again, to the, oh, look, they're growing along nicely. They might actually make it.
Right.
I am so impressed by authors that can pull it off. And, you know, the long series, like the 12 books,
right.
Thinking of, I mean, that can write, I mean, to be honest, you know, I've written one series that follows the same characters. It's only 3 books long and I was exhausted.
It depends how much your readers are like, when are we having another book about Jack and Riley, for example? No. That is 9 books now, the Texas series, but right, it's got other romances, friends of theirs, and they bring them together. But the biggest thing for me with established couples and love and very often my couples end up adopting or having surrogacy and having kids. And the biggest thing about that is who's going to get up and change the nappy, who's going to feed the baby, who's going to fold the tiny little clothes and all that. It's the mundane, and it's like, come on, I'll get up, you stay in bed, you stay asleep, I'll go and feed the baby, I'll get up. That's to me, oh my god, that's so lovely. I don't know.
And so much more equal when everybody has the same equipment.
Yes.
As opposed to, well, I guess I'm getting up again because,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true. What are some of the grand gestures your characters have made for each other? Or what are some of the memorable moments you can think of in your own books when they've done something for the other one?
Tattoos.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing, a tattoo.
Yeah, tattoo. Oh, in Jack and Riley's story, Jack actually ate a salad once without any meat in it, which was big considering he's from Texas and he's a steak eater. So that was a pretty grand gesture. And we've got, in the same series, Riley going into a burning barn and rescuing horses and risking his own life for Jack's sister. So yeah, the tiny little things like eating a salad, way up to the I will die for you.
The only book I have that actually even mentions Valentine's Day, which is kind of funny, the character, they have this kind of really silly, embarrassing meetup for one of the characters, and then at the end he reenacts it to make it's very, it's cute.
Aw, yeah.
Well, my only Valentine's Day story, it reunites two World War II ghosts who have been parted for 70 years. So, and yes, there's real life love around that as well, but that's the core of the story. So, it's a ghost story. It's a love story. It's a ghost love story.
That's cool.
Usually with my historical romances, especially with the ones that have the paranormal characters in it, the grand gesture tends to be where one of them accepts what the other one, the impossible, essentially. This character sees ghosts and can be, talk to the dead or something. And the other one, of course, is always, a mathematician or an engineer or somebody who's just not going to accept that. So in the grand gesture, he doesn't have to die for her. In some cases, they try, but but to accept that she's talking to an invisible being over there, and that invisible being is telling her something that I don't like, but I'm going to have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and then he does in a grand way, of course, doing something grandiose to show his acceptance. But, you don't have to die.
No, you don't have to die. You're absolutely right. You don't have to die. And it's funny because a lot of my characters make grand gestures, both life-threatening and silly. But one of the ones that I think kind of gets overlooked because it happens to a secondary character, and it's not something that people talk about very often, and that's in my Brimstone series, which is it's demons in space, and it's definitely not a serious series. So it's space opera, but it's also kind of fantasy. And in one of the stories, they actually have a time traveling mishap with frogs. That's complicated, but
Oh, now I'm totally hooked.
well, yeah.
I like frogs.
But they end up in the Old West, and one of the characters from the spaceship, one of the demons, falls in love with a cowboy, and the cowboy, towards the end of the book, has to make a decision, and the decision that he makes is to give up his life, give up his planet, and give up his time period to follow the demon that he loves. So it's not an I'm going to die for you kind of gesture, but that's a really grand gesture.
It's a you are my world gesture, which is
Right.
very cool. And I love that gesture. That's one of my very favorites.
Yes, yes. In historicals, it can run the gamut in the same vein, although it's not giving up your whole planet, but you know, it can be abandoning vengeance, you know, and embracing life and love instead.
Right.
I've done that, you know, or it can be something more fun, you know, like I have a character who's very reserved and very, you know, straight-laced and doesn't like attention, and you know, he makes a grand gesture and does a very public, very lighthearted scavenger hunt through London, you know, chasing, you know, having her chased down, and it ends up, of course, with the Grand Declaration of Love, which was fun, you know, but not really for him, you know, but he did it to prove himself, you know, kind of.
Nice.
So anything like that, I love, you know. Giving up your planet, though, that's pretty. That's true love.
Yes.
My characters have big gestures, and I never thought about them in those terms. But especially in my contemporary, like I obviously have Down for You in my Blade and Dust series, and they fall in love so quickly, and there's plot twists and stuff, and give up their life for each other. But I'd never thought in my contemporary that I would enjoy them so much, because I'm not a very public person. But you have everything from chasing airport scene to going up to the microphone and saying, and coming out and saying, I love you and I want to be with you and I don't care what everyone else thinks. And it's just, I don't know why, but it fills me up with so much joy and happiness writing those scenes.
I love those moments.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love that moment when, you know, they've had their misunderstanding, they think it isn't going to work out, and then, you know, they manage to pull through, and somebody does something amazing, whether it is chasing them down through an airport or going through an interdimensional rift, as one does, or you know, the demon, unless the demon happens to be who you're in love with, and then slaying the other demon, whatever it is. I'm no offense on demons, because you know, I understand.
Right. It's quite right.
But I love when you have that moment of comprehension where they're both finally on the same page, and you go, oh, that's what you were talking about. Right. Yes. So can you think of something that is particularly funny or that particularly got you in the feels, either with your own books or with a TV show or a movie, or maybe a favorite book you've read by somebody else, that's just stuck with you as, oh, I relive that scene in my mind all the time?
That's a good question.
I have one in real life.
Go for it. We are sorry.
Tell us.
I love my husband. He is amazing in a myriad of ways, but he's not super romantic, like gesture guy. But our first Christmas together, he gave me a present, and it was, okay, I'm going to date myself because this was a long time ago. And it was when, before the day of cell phones and everything, he'd given me an electronic date book, phone book kind of a thing. And it, you know, for keeping addresses and calendars and that kind of a thing. So yeah, I'm old. And he said, look in the memo section. Poem. And if you knew my husband, that is a big deal. And it was a lovely poem, and at the end it said, look in the tree, in the Christmas tree. And we were surrounded by his family. We're at his family's house, and there was an emerald and diamond ring in the tree. And I was just in tears. I mean,
oh my goodness.
And my little nephew was like going, you're crying because you're happy, right? So that was a huge gesture, which is a big deal for my husband. And he's then just declared that was it. that was the one I was getting. So I'd better.
That's a good one. That's a good story.
Yeah. So I've been living off that one for 30 years. So. But I mean, there's so many books.
Oh, my husband. Okay, so my second husband, I remarried. And I will share this because like he's so much more romantic than me. He figured out that we were dating before I figured out that I mean, like, okay, so I've known him since 1984. We were both married, you know, life happened. And then we've never lost touch with each other. So, you know, I guess there was that. But anyway, so I didn't figure out that we were dating, and finally I did. And so we were, you know, and so it was all official and stuff. But on the eclipse, the one in August in 2017, right in the middle of the eclipse, he got down on his knees, and I'm like, "What are you doing? I'm watching this eclipse." And he was proposing.
That's lovely.
It's just like, I'm such an, oh. But
I met my husband on a blind date, 1989, so like years ago now, and we were engaged by the Christmas. We'd only been going out with each other about 6 months. We were engaged at the Christmas. He went down on one knee in the middle of a Italian restaurant, and everybody was clapping. It was proper romance. It was lovely. It was really nice. And then 30 years later, we're still together. So
cool.
Yeah.
I dragged my husband around Prague for days. We had planned to go on a winter break, and I thought, okay, this is the time. I had already gotten the ring because I thought he was going to propose to me there. So I dragged him around Prague. In places like there's a castle, there was a gay bar, there was something else, and nowhere felt right. And then on our last night, I was like, I give up. And we went into this nice cozy bar that was tucked away in the square in the main city center, and there was a fire there, and it kind of reminded me of where we went on our first date in the Embankment. So I went inside, told the waitress to take the ring, put it on a plate, right? Will you marry me in chocolate, and bring it out when I said it to her. And yeah, she did that. He didn't realize what was going on at all. He wasn't planning on proposing to me either, so I could have waited. But yeah, she came to the table, and he didn't realize what she was even carrying until he actually like read it, and yeah, that was our engagement.
Awesome.
Oh.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we're very practical people. We had already worked out, you know, a lot of the details about getting married, but we picked out the ring, and we were actually scouting the location in the college church where we, you know, met, because we had a date reserved, but we hadn't actually gotten engaged yet. So right there, while we were scouting the church for the date to get married, he went down on one knee and proposed, because we kind of figured we'd skip that somewhere along the way, and then we could check that on the sheet. And like I said, practical people. But
That's good.
So is there something you can think of that with your characters, or that you've you know, seen again on TV, Hallmark, whatever, that was either a proposal that went well, a proposal that went catastrophically not, or someone's grand idea that just doesn't work out the way they planned? Because that's always kind of fun too when it works out in the end.
I think I love that scene in A Love Actually where Colin Firth learns, is it Portuguese, and stumbles through asking the girl out for a date at the end, where they don't speak the same language, they're talking to each other, saying the things that they feel and they don't get, but he goes home and learns her language and then comes back and kind of acts the fool, stumbles through it. I always think that's a good scene. Mm-hmm. The whole town is like mocking him.
I love the scene in Mamma Mia where, you know, the two young people who are going to get married call it off because they decide they really are too young and they want to go see the world. And so Pierce Brosnan, you know, finally proposes to Meryl Streep after, you know, they should have been together 25 years ago. Pierce Brosnan can't sing worth a lick, but I give him credit. And of course, the entire Greek town chimes in and everybody's singing and dancing because they all practice the choreography ahead of time.
Of course.
And, that I love that scene because it's just so cheeky and so wonderful to see them get a second chance. And I think for sheer panoply and gorgeousness, the wedding scene in Bride and Prejudice, which is the Bollywood version of Pride and Prejudice, how do you beat all that color and everybody out there Bollywood dancing in the street? It's just, you know, fun.
That is a fun one.
That's fun. Yep.
I don't remember any particular proposals, but there's bits in films that I love that are like so romantic, like The Holiday, you know, when they switch houses at Christmas, and the character goes to the guy's house and finds out that he's widowed, and she goes, "Are you DIVORCED?" and he goes, "No, WIDOWED," with the two girls and everything. And that, I think that's incredibly romantic. There's just something about the way the characters connect at that moment in that film that is so much more romantic than a "Will you marry me?" but it's just a connection. Mm-hmm. So I can't think off the top of my head of any proposals, but that one scene is one of my favorites. Oh, and when Han Solo gets put into carbon. Yeah, that's incredibly romantic to me. And in 1983, that was like, you know. Sorry, Elle, carry on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I mean, like there isn't really until the very end, I guess, in Harry Met Sally. But I just love the whole slow, all the audience is like, you guys are so perfect for each other. And yet they spend however many years the movie spans, you know, falling in love and not even realizing it. And I guess I actually do that a lot in my books because I really like that that theme, you know. But that sticks with me. I like it when people, I don't know, I just like that feeling, the falling in love and kind of, but being friends, and we're all watching them, you know, kind of, you know, have lunch together over the years and judge each other's romantic partners and all that kind of stuff. That one sticks with me.
You know, I love that trope too. There was a couple that I went to grad school with, and we all knew they needed to be with each other, except they were clueless. And it took them like another 10 years to figure it out. And then they got married and had 3 kids. And it's like, well, if you'd have asked any of us, we could have told you this and saved you 10 years. You know?
Trouble.
We all knew.
Oh, that's funny.
So who's got new books out? Who's got books coming out? I know Angel and Rhys and I are in a couple of things together, but who's got new stuff coming out that everybody should be looking for?
We're talking Valentine's. We've got Vicky and I have got Valentine's Hearts, which is the Jacob and Riker wedding novella in the Oratana University Young Adult series, part of our hockey romances. So that's out on the 12th. So that's very exciting.
I have the last 3 books of the School of Magic series coming out, one in March, one in May, and one in July. I've got the covers and everything ready for those. The Librarian Spell is the one out in March. And that's a fun one where you're talking about the tropes where they so completely opposite. They have no idea, you know, that they're falling in love because she's this librarian in an out-of-way Scottish castle that happens to be falling down. And he's an engineer who avoids women, who stays, you know, in mining camps. He's not a social person. He's not somebody who does parties. You know, he's an engineer. He can't read. She's a librarian and he can't read because he has dyslexia. But he's self-taught by action and by listening. And it's just, they have to work together because her castle's falling down and he's got to put it together. And little by little, they learn what the other person is and why they are the way they are. And that's my kind of trope.
Okay. I have nothing this month except I have a small one coming out Monday, but it's not actually a new publication, but I have a book coming out in March that's the second in my Crimes of the Heart series. It's called Heart Heist. It's set in Seattle and it's contemporary romance. I suppose the trope is, you know, it's insta love for one and avoidance for the other. So there you go. And we have to kind of work through that. And then I have another one coming out at the end of April. That's the first in a series but it comes from my original series. And that one is the one that's coming out is called Real Trouble. So I'm very excited. It's kind of wrong side of the tracks, law versus the bad boy, kind of thing. So
I had a release 2 weeks ago. It's in the Castle Kevner Pixie series. So I was in this anthology series with a group of authors where it was a haunted castle in Cornwall, but I really didn't want to do ghosts or, witches or anything like that. So I did nature-based magic pixies. So there's 3 books in that series. The last one, Miss Pennick and the Pixies Poem, just came out, and just this month. And one of my latest straight Regency historical series is called A Series of Unconventional Courtships, and it had a release in December, so the next one won't be until June, but that one is Why Do Earls Fall in Love? So
That's
cool.
cute. I love that. Do you want me to talk about the Magic Emporium, Gail?
Yeah,
a little bit?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, the Magic Emporium is a series that's the brainchild of Megan Maslow. And it's a shared item series, which is a lot of fun. So all of these books are standalone books. They share one single element, which is the Magic Emporium, oddly enough. Which can appear in any world at any time, but it only appears when the main character is in dire need, and it can only appear once. So the Magic Emporium is going to appear in all of these stories, but all these stories are completely different in every other way. There are 12 of them. Some of them are serious, some of them are not. They're all romances. They're all male romance. And it's going to be so much fun. There are 3 that have already released, and one of them is about a dragon baker. I'm like, oh my God, that is the best thing ever. Mine won't be out until March 18th, I think it was. And mine is called Jeffrey the Very Strange. Jeffrey is a theoretical necromancer who's trying to find different ways of raising the dead that don't involve blood magic. So it will involve a tiefling, and that's a half demon if you don't play D&D. And it's a fantasy world. It's not an urban fantasy. I very often write urban fantasy, but this is not in our world at all. So it's just a fantasy. And it will involve these characters and some very angry seashells. So.
I'm intrigued.
So now my mind is immediately going to the 3 seashells in that old movie. It was my husband's going to kill me for getting it.
Oh no. Okay.
Old Stallone movie where he comes forward into the future, and it goes in the bathroom, and there's no toilet paper or anything. There's just 3 seashells.
Okay.
Nobody,
right.
and everybody's like, "What's with this 3 seashells?" And they kind of make seashell jokes and never explain it.
Nice. Okay.
Am I next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I am part of the project, part of the Magic Emporium with you, Angel, and Gail. My book is Elven Duty, which is the 7th, I think, coming out on March 4th. And it is a star-crossed lovers urban fantasy romance that has elves, monsters. It's got some peculiar magic and a little bit of family drama. So it's a Romeo and Juliet-esque sort of setup. And it was quite exciting writing it. And it became even more romantic than I was planning on making it.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me by surprise there. It was supposed to be enemies to lovers, enemies with benefits. It turned to just fated mates kind of thing that just took over. And that was exciting to write. What else? April, we've got something coming with Gail, but I'm not ready to announce much yet because of reasons. But it's basically an anthology that we're preparing with a few other authors. It's an urban fantasy anthology, and I think that we can share more at a later point. What else? May, I've got another shared project. It feels like my first 3 projects for the year are all shared projects. It's part of a Serena Bowen's World of True North series. So she's taken her main 8 books, I think they're 8, from her True North series. They're all best-selling. And she created these 4 separate series of books, and all written by different authors. My one is an romance, and it's part of the Vina and Veritas series, which are LGBTQ romances. There is 17 books, I think, in that series coming out all through the year, with 2 FF romances and the rest of them as far as I know. And that was exciting. I just finished it last week. That was exciting to write as well because it was so different. I had to work with a whole established world and incorporating other authors' work. It was intimidating and exciting at the same time. But yeah, that's what's coming over the next few months, with loads more in the works.
Nice.
I've got a free short story that was in the Winter Wonderland Mail Romance giveaway, and that is The Christmas Spirit, and it's set in my Kings of the Mountain series, which, if you think about mashing up Dukes of Hazzard and Supernatural with main characters who are together, that would be Kings of the Mountain. And so that is out in free and prolific works. I'm in the super secret project with Rhys, but I will say mine has goat shifters. So just going to have to wait to get the details, but goat shifters.
I should have said that mine had a magic library in it. I forgot to leave the ghosts in.
There you go. Then I'm also in the Megan Maslow Magic Emporium Shared World series. Mine is the very, very last book in the series by design, because I said, look, I want to do this, but I'm swamped. And mine is called Haven, and that will also be set in my Fox Hollow world, which is a shifter world. So I'm really excited about all of those. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now, is getting through all of those. Let's go around one more time. Tell everybody where they can find you online so they can track down all these wonderful books and characters that we've talked about. RJ, I'm going to go around backwards from you, at least backwards on my screen. So tell us where to find you.
You can find out more about me and my writing at rjscott.co.uk. It's really easy to get to. And all my social links and my books and newsletters and all that kind of thing, you can find it there.
Cool. Rhys?
Mine is Rhys Writes Romance. That's RHYS, writesromance.com. And I've got all the information there. I've got my books, my audiobooks, my newsletter, my works in progress, everything.
Cool. Elle?
Well, I also have a website, ellekeaton.com. So everything's there if you want a newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And if they're not newsletter people, all the other places like BookBub and Goodreads and all of those places, you can find me as well.
Very nice. Pat?
My website has just finally got up again. We've been transitioning it. It's patriciarice.com. Everything's there. It's, and I'm on all the usual places under Patricia Rice. So find me anywhere.
Very nice. Angel?
I am at angelmartinezauthor.weebly.com. Everything is on that website. All 60 plus works by genre, and what's coming out and what I'm working on, and where you can find me on social media and all that good stuff. So that's the best place.
And Deb?
DebMarlow.com. Same. All my books. I have articles on historical stuff, lots of traditions, weddings, one on Valentine's Day if you're interested in the history of Valentine's Day. I have videos, Deb Marlow's Regency Kitchen, where that you can watch me try to make historical recipes in my modern kitchen. So, and I'm on most of the usual social media, so you can link to me from there.
Cool. And my romance is at morganbrice.com. That's BRICE. You can find my Valentine's Day story, Cover Me, on Prolific Works for free. And everything else is on Amazon and audiobook. And some of the books are wide, some of them are in KU. So it's kind of a mixed bag there, but I'm pretty easy to find. And on social media everywhere, just look for Gail Z Martin. Make sure you get the Z, and Morgan Brice. And that name combination is in just about everything. So I'm pretty easy to find. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here with me today and talking about love and romance and all of this good stuff. And thank you, folks, for tuning in, listening to us, watching us. And please stay tuned, because we've got a lot more romance and good stuff coming up here in Continual. So we'll see you online.